Hi, it's Nancy welcoming you to Garden Scroll. Look what I discovered this morning. This little plant right here. It's got a little shoot coming up from it. I guess it knows spring is starting all over again. I hope this will live. I've forgotten what it even is, but I hope it will live. I usually do start cleaning up the garden in February, but this year, actually, we haven't had the pretty days in February, at least not when I had the time I could get out here, so I had other obligations if we had pretty days. But this one little side that I did get cleaned off on the last day of February. So I cleaned off my where my daylilies were and where my peonies were. Look at this little pink red coming up. That will be one of the peonies. I'm pretty sure there's one here, but I'm not seeing it. Let me move this around, and I may have lost one here. Those moles are certainly good at doing that. You can see there is one trying to come up here. The peonies color when they first come in the spring is a pretty red or reddish pink. And I do have some daylilies trying to poke through. I also did clip back some of my clematis that are up against this. You can see there's life right there. And I think, let me look right here, because yes, there you go. Do you see that little red poking up there? That will be a pretty peony. All down this back fence row I have peonies and daylilies. And then last year I put the pots here that I had mums in them. I don't know if they're going to come back, but if they don't, I will just trim back some of my ones that are trying to become ground cover mums, where I would prefer just a pretty little round mound, and I'll put those in these pots. I'll probably give them a chance to come back first though and see what they will do. And this one, I'm trying to think what I even had in there. I think I had a sedum in this one, which so far is not looking like it's coming back, but that doesn't really mean that it totally won't. It might still be in there fixing to poke its little head up. What I wanted to show you is actually the grapevines, because I did go ahead and trim them, and it did say to trim them about their main stalks to approximately 4 foot, so that's what I did. And then the little shoots around them, to trim them around a foot tall. So I think mine are a little bit shorter than the foot tall, but I think I did pretty good. It looks so much neater than it did. You can see there is a little clematis vine trying to climb up this one, and I'll probably have to trim some more of this off, but I'm going to wait because it does have some life in there, and the clematis will go ahead and be one of the first things to bloom and to be beautiful in the spring. But I feel good about getting the grapes and the blackberries trimmed, and actually they say to trim them pretty much the same way, to around 4 foot tall on the main stem, and then any stem that is out beside of it, to trim them down to about a foot tall, which, as far as I can see, this one little green one right here is about the only one that I had that was not, I hadn't been trimming them off at the tops, and my stems that came out from the main stalk were mostly up there at the top, so I just trimmed those all off. And they may put me on some more, and they still have blackberries, but also I've read that sometimes the blackberries and the grapes especially, so I think that's where I read it, but that they will come out only after it's been on the stem for a couple of years. So we'll see what will happen with them. But I still think it's a good idea to go ahead and get them trimmed down to size where they should be, so that they'll have a better chance to put their little green stems up. And even if they don't do a lot this year, if I can keep them trimmed more correctly, I think I'll have a better chance of having some in future seasons. And all the cleaning out that I did on this side, and I quit because when I got over here to my row of iris, there's just so much grass and weeds in here that I need to get up, and we'll plan on doing that as soon as I can. It's kind of cold today, so I'm not going to do it today, and I have other obligations tomorrow, so we'll see. But I'm getting fairly anxious to go ahead now and get back out here and get things cleaned up. This little area I'm actually proud of. It may not look like much, but it looks like a good start for being cleaned out. And these, of course, I did last fall as far as trimming the iris back, and they are ready to go now. They'll be putting that little stalk up before too long that puts the bud and the bloom on the end of it, so that'll be great. But of course, all this mess still will need to be cleaned out. Everywhere I look, there's things that needs to be cleaned out, as well as things that need to be fixed because they're broken, and get those going again if possible. If not, I'll probably try to see if I can get another one. I'm also making a list of some plants that I want to purchase this spring, and I came out specifically to look at this little plant right here because I was hoping it would be here, and if I can get it to where you can tell, but there is definitely some green on this little plant. And I think that little plant was called Rebecca, or maybe Rebecca Ann, but it is a beautiful clematis. It has a large bloom, and it is just a deep velvety maroon red. It's so pretty. So I may want to actually even get another one of those. I really like them so much. You can see that we're trying to get a little bit of the little bracts that come on the forsythia bushes. Spring is just right around the corner. And earlier I took a shaky picture of a cardinal up here in this tree, and I'm sure he was trying to tell me that I needed to put some more food in his feeder. Look at this little sedum coming back, even in this tiny little pot. That's great. So I'm getting my hoses lined out. My husband has helped me to realize that you can lay them out and let them get warm, and then they won't have all those curly cues they have from being wrapped around in a circle. So that's what is happening right now. And then I will go ahead and remove some of the old light duty hoses that just did not work and put these in their place. And I know this one is green, but it is a heavy duty hose, and I think these other ones are a medium duty, but I think they will work. But the light duty do not work for making them into soaker hoses, because when you poke your hole in, one hole will become a geyser and the other hose will just not work at all. So I've got to replace all of this along this whole fence row, and I plan to do that as soon as I can. There's so much to do in the early spring. It's the most daunting job of all. I so wish I could just have an army of gardeners out here to take care of all this for me or to help me. I want to be a part of doing it because you know, I just want to see it up close and personal too. But also spring is a wonderful time because, as I've already showed you, I found some things, and it's so exciting to me to know that they did come back, because they barely were started last year, and I didn't know if they would make it back, but some of them have. I'm sure there will be things that don't make it back. There always is, and it's not always because they're in the wrong planting zone. Sometimes it's because a vole or a mole has dug a tunnel right beside it and decided to go ahead and just live off of that plant for a while. So that's not a good thing, but that happens. And so I'll be, part of it's just like Easter, and you're finding Easter eggs and you find the prize egg, and it's wonderful. But then the other part is just seeing all this old dead stuff that just doesn't seem to ever end. You just keep going and cleaning and doing and being sore and hurting, but then eventually it gets better and things begin to be beautiful again. I'm always ready for that day. But we have to have these other days till we get to them, because it's just like you wonder, well, can this ever be beautiful again? But then you know from years past that yes, it can. Just keep going, keep pressing on, and pretty soon there'll be so much green and then beautiful blooms. And of course I had to come back here to this little spot because it's the only spot I have cleaned out. I still haven't even cleaned out the other side, but that's in the plans. Today is a pretty day. Yesterday was cold, and we went to see my niece, and she's been such a trooper. She is so young to have breast cancer, and she had to have a mastectomy, and she is just being so wonderful about it. I mean, she's just handling it. I know we handle things because we don't have a choice, because if we had a choice, she would never do that, nor would any of us want it for her. But she's just making a joke out of things rather than crying. I told her she reminded me of her Uncle Willie, because that's what he did all of his life that I knew him. And I knew him all of his life. So, and that works for a while, but you know, you need God, you need other people's support. So if you pray for her. It seemed like so many things have been happening in our family that they all need your prayers, or we always need each other's prayers. But oh my, this looks so ugly, so messy, so much work. I just wonder how I'm going to do it. But little by little, that's how we do it, you know, line up on line, precept on precept. So we're going to keep going, and one day soon all this will be beautiful if it's the Lord's will, and we can keep going. And I'm so grateful for the cooler weather yesterday so that we were able to go visiting. And I know I've got to get out here and get busy more days, and I have not done hardly anything out here, and there's so much to do. It'll take so long, and we usually, like I say, get started in February, and I only had one day in February that I actually cleaned anything out here. Look at this dianthus, it's just spreading so much. I'll need to clip some of it back, which is great because the things I clip back I'll probably put in little pots here and there around the garden. I also got to see my great nephew, and I just enjoyed seeing him so much. He's such a big boy. I mean, he's 9, but he is solid, and he's so sweet. I just love all of the little boys in our family, and all the little girls too. I wanted to stop by and see my other great nephews, but we just totally wore ourselves out. I think we might be getting old. But no, of course we couldn't be doing that. You know that little saying that goes around on Facebook, old is always 10 years older than I am, and I like that. I hope to fill all these little pots up with some of the clippings that I have in the window, and just then I'll probably have to cover it with some clear plastic for a little while until they get stratified, and then hopefully they will just take off and shine. My next goal in the garden is to trim back all the clematis or clematis because they are beginning to get some green on them, and I want to have them ready to go if I possibly can. And then also the roses. All of my roses need trimming, and I've been reading about how to do that, which I always forget from one time to the other, but one day after I do it enough I'll remember. But right now what I need to do is trim these back down and make sure that there's none crossing each other, and trim the ones that make a cross where they overlap. Let's see, like this. No, this one's not overlapping. So let me see if, okay, here's one right here, this one right here. Oh, it's overlapped these other two. I'll trim that off, and I'm going to trim off all the old dead pieces of the roses. And they say also you can actually bend them and then tie them to a stake and put that in the ground so that it will form its own little bend, and from there the flower will be able to bloom, to have more flowers on it, more of a stem that will produce flowers. So I'm going to try to do some of that. That's my very next job that I want to do. That little red cardinal out here day before yesterday, and I realized he was telling me that he would like for me to put him some more seed out, so I did that. It looks like he has not found it yet. He probably gave up on me, but he'll find it. In the back of this little bird bath, and all around it for that matter, all around it there are irises, but right in the back of it, when they grow up and put on their little torch lily Caffeia plant, it's a beauty. So there's so much beauty out here. You can't see it unless you know what it will do, what it can do, and what I hope it will do. And I also did, I already tell you, I did make some more orders, some plant orders, and hopefully I'll have some new things in the garden too. But what I would really like to do, of course, is to get things established where they will come back, except of course for the things I lose that I have no control over. And even though I try to control the moles and voles, they always win out on something. I'm certainly hoping they do not win out on my little do-tell peony, because oh, it's a beauty, such a beauty, and I do not see any of it coming up. When it does, we'll see it though, because it'll have little pink or red stalks when it first comes up. It's right in this area somewhere, if it made it. Oh, I hope it did. We'll have to try it. If I didn't, I'll have to try it again. It's just such a beauty. And also I took my niece a bowl of beauty peony, and it is my favorite. Even though the do-tell is gorgeous, I think all of the peonies are just so pretty, so big, so bold, so beautiful, but I think it still is my favorite. Today is March the 10th, and we have been busy taking down pampas grass and all the little grasses that I have in the garden. This is one job my husband helps me with, thankfully. Oh my goodness, it's such a job, but we just lack this one, and we'll be done with that job. I have learned that you can tie this up with some garden twine or rope, and then just cut below the last rope closest to the earth that you have put on there, and that way it stays together in one big bundle pretty much. It can also escape a bit, but it's so much better than when it all escapes and you have to pick all that up separately. Today is March the 17th, and it's about 48 degrees out right now, but it got below freezing last night for a little while, and I think the next 3 to 4 days are going to be like that. So I think we're going to have some below freezing weather, not all the time, but at least part of each 24-hour day. We will have part of that time, mostly at night when the temperatures do drop below freezing. For the most part, the plants do seem to make it through these little late spring freezes, but it's never a guarantee that they will. So of course I wait with bated breath, thinking, will they come back? And look, this is the little dewtail peony I was telling you about. And it is up with all the rest of them now, looking great. I did water this down, hoping that that will keep it from going below 32 degrees, which should be fine then. And I'm noticing that I have a little peony coming up over here. This may be a totally different peony. I can't remember what I had planted there. But I also had a dewtail peony in this area somewhere before, and it died out. I thought this may be it trying to come back. However, I don't think I would be that lucky, because I think it was closer up to this side of the little walkway. So, but either way, I have another one. It is coming up, and unless it gets frozen out, and usually if the perennials get frozen out with a spring freeze, they will still go ahead and come back from the root. So I'm hoping that will happen. But some of the tender perennials, like the black and blue salvias, don't always come back. This is my little black and blue salvia, and I had noticed that it is coming back. So actually I had taken the mulch away from it a bit, but I put it back up there just real close to it, hoping that it would help it make it through these few days. And possibly we won't have any more after this little freeze, but there's no guarantee of that either. You know, we've had them even past the date of April the 15th is the one that most places say is when we're pretty much safe from another frost, but even that can happen. I'm seeing that I have a little peony poking its little red up right here too. I'm not sure I had that for you there. Let me see if I can get it where I can tell that it's in there. I think it's right in there. I hope it's showing up for you. But spring is definitely close at hand. It feels like spring out here even at this temperature right now. But yesterday when the winds came, it was very cold, and then it did get below freezing last night, and chances of that happening the next 4 days. So of course I'm hoping it doesn't take our little forsythias out while they're still pretty and bright yellow. But it has done in the past. It can just take these out to where they don't show much of their yellow and they just go to the green. And even though I haven't got to do a whole lot out in the garden, I have done a little. I know that I've already got like some of the edges like up against the back of the house. All of this west side fence row, and all of this back fence, all cleaned out, and the weeds and grass all out of it too. So that's a pretty good start, even on this side. I got that too. So, but I need to get back out here very much. But I was going to tell you that I did also plant a few seeds since we had that cool weather. Oh, look at this. This clematis is coming back so prettily. And then I have another one on the other side that I'm so anxious for it to do well. And it's not doing so great, but there's a tiny tad of green there, and I'm hoping it makes it through this harsh time on it and just keeps on going. But I was able to go visit my daughter, and we went down to her little community gardens and planted some flowers. And while we were after we planted the flowers in her little area, we looked around and we found a big, beautiful dinosaur kale, a dinosaur kale, and it's so pretty. You wouldn't really think about it being pretty, but it's just looks like rubber. It's so, and stood up so tall, even at that early season, which it may have been planted in the fall, but either way, it was just a beautiful little specimen. And I actually purchased some seeds of it to try in my garden just because it was beautiful. I took the plastic off my hoses and actually am using them today. I planted a few seeds. I think I've already told you about that, but if I haven't, I planted some poppies, columbine, some of the flowers that need to have a cold period. And I thought, well, maybe this little cold period will give them the start that they need, and then we'll just go on from there. And wouldn't it be great to see the beautiful peony flowering poppies in the garden, and the beautiful columbines? And I think I planted a few other things like not bells of Ireland, but Canterbury bells. I planted some Canterbury bells and some coneflower seeds. And this is my lilac bush. You can tell it's got little buds of lilacs on there, so they're getting ready. Spring is definitely getting ready to show off for us. And this is my weeping willow tree. It won't be long till it's got leaves all over it. This is usually my first little or big peony to bloom. It's always an exciting time when it opens up that first big beautiful bloom. Since I brought these little plants in because of our 3 to 4 day freeze we had, except it wasn't that all of that time, and I think everything made it anyway. These may not have had to be brought in, but they're not in the ground. They're in these fairly shallow pots, and so I just wanted to make sure they would be okay because it's easier to bring them in. They're just light, and so I could bring them inside and have a better chance of them making it through that little spell. And I know we may have another one. I hope we don't, but it's certainly possible. But I'm going to try to take these back outside today. However, I may not put them right where I had them right now. I will eventually. You can tell this little trail that's empty right here. That's where I had all of these. And I need to clean all this mess up, but I don't know how much, if any, of that I'll get done today. But I'll probably set them just somewhere else out here in the garden until I can get all of it cleaned out, because they'll have to be moved in order to get over to these other pots for cleaning. But I did notice that when I showed you the other day what I actually did get done out here that I went really fast and you could not really tell. So I'm going to go again a little bit slower, because even though there is so much I need to do, it's just wonderful to look back at the things I have got done. And I know there's still plastic out here on things, but that's okay too. I'll take it off and it'll look good when I do. But right now it is giving some protection to my little plants. But this is where I already got cleaned, and you already saw earlier in this little movie clip or movie post what it looked like before. Oh my goodness, what a difference. But things are still looking good, green and pretty, greening up more each day. So even though we did have that little freeze, things did survive, thank God. And I hope we don't have another one, but we'll see. We'll just have to see how it will be. It is supposed to be nice this week, but my husband is going to have a little procedure done. Well, not quite little, but he's going to have a procedure done, and we are hoping that it will not be too rough on him and that I'll be right back out here busy and getting things done. But we will see how that will go, because he's going to have to be priority for a little bit, a few days. Okay, I had some help from my husband, but look, it's all cleaned out on this side. I do want to get the hose out and give it a good drink of water. I haven't watered them since I brought them inside, but they're ready for a drink, and I think they'll do fine now. We'll see if we may have to bring them in again before it's all over, but hopefully not. Hopefully spring is here. Not only on the calendar, but hopefully the temperatures will reflect that too. And hopefully it will be spring for a while before the heat of summer kicks right in. It just makes me wish it was all done. It was actually kind of nice to have some cooler days for me where I can just watch the birds a little bit and look at catalogs with flowers and dream a bit more before the actual work begins. Please be sure to like and to subscribe to the channel.